Good morning, good morning. I hope this finds you safe and well. Now, apologies for being slightly late. It's been a very, very busy week. I was busy writing today's newsletter, which is coming out at 9:30 as usual. And lo and behold, Cloudflare went down. Now, apparently, this is to do with routine maintenance, but it means that I couldn't get onto LinkedIn. I couldn't get onto StreamYard, which is what I use to post to LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. And I couldn't get onto Kit, which is our current email software system. So we were a bit stuck for a few minutes. But the good news is it's routine maintenance and everything should be sorted by 11 o'clock today. Hopefully this video will go out fine, but apologies if it suddenly disappears. And also apologies if you're signed up to the newsletter and it doesn't, it doesn't come out at the right time. And Cloudflare is the reason why. Okay, so on with today. Bit chilly today. We had the pheasant light day yesterday. It was awful. We ran out of bacon butties. It was that bad. Yeah, we've never done that before. So there was a lot of toing and froing. It was just. Anyway, we got through it. That's the main thing. Okay, so the first thing we have for you today is a really nice post from Baza, very probably written by our friend Caroline Rain, on how DUINs are doing down innovation in the UK. Now, if you remember, DUIN is the downstream user import notification, and it was set up under UK REACH so that people in the EU who had been buying material from the EU and who were therefore going to become importers and take on REACH registration liability would have the ability to say, no, we're already doing this in the 2 years prior to exit day, and we're going to carry on doing that up until the point where we need to actually register. So it was a way of buying them time rather than saying on exit day you become an importer and you've got to go through the whole process. And it's been good for innovation where people have got the 2 years prior to exit day. So that's 2021 to 2019. It's a long time ago now, especially in innovation terms. So Baza have spotted, as a lot of businesses have, that the fact that people now have to go through the registration process, even if it's an MRES registration process to bring in new material, is a real brake on bringing novel chemicals to the GB marketplace. And I'm just going to pop the article below here. Now you might go, well, hang on a minute, it's 1 tonne per annum. Surely to goodness, people can import less than 1 tonne per annum and all good. Not so fast. We have a real issue here. When I was in the chemical industry, we had a pilot plant. It was actually in the process of being closed when I joined. But the pilot plants that we used to have in the industry were good because it meant that you could trial processes on an intermediate scale between full production and just doing it in the lab in a tiny, tiny quantity. And because there are very few pilot plants available now, it means that there's no way of testing new raw materials for a lot of things. It's either at lab or it's at full size. So say you've got an existing chemical process and you want to use a different raw material for your reaction. The only way you can see if it's really going to work is to actually buy enough as a batch charge. And guess what? In the real world, even in a relatively small specialty chemical company, it might be 3 tons or 5 tons. Bang, there you go. And suppose you want to try out things from different suppliers. Whoa. You can see how the lack of doing is affecting innovation quite significantly. And similarly for people who are scaling up novel processes or novel chemicals, although they do have the PPORD exemption. But PPORD, like NRES, requires you to go through the process with the HSE of getting your identity, your chemical identity, substance identity profile in. That's going to be a couple of grand at least, more if it's a UVCB. And again, if you're trying different materials, 2, 3, 4 UVCBs, you're 10 grand straight away, aren't you? Yeah, or not UVCBs, I should say, but different raw materials. So it's a really good article. If this does affect you, I recommend you talk to your trade body about it. Right, so that's the first thing for you. In the EU, completely different, talking about EU-CLP. And as you may have seen, Stop the Clock came out on the 3rd, which was Wednesday. This is the thing that puts the hated EU-CLP label formatting rules back to the 1st of January 2028. And you might think, oh, that's great, because when this was first proposed, the European Commission, now just bring the link there, that's in multiple languages, that link, by the way. So you can download the one that affects you. But so basically, the European Commission had suggested some text, which was very plain vanilla, just saying that everything must be clear and easily legible. But as we go through this process, even now, that's changed, and they're talking about making the label different to the label background, you know, the CLP label bit different to the label background. And you can see that, oh God, the EU, they cannot help themselves. They are micromanagers. They cannot resist micromanaging. So it's quite possible that even though we have this extension, we may go around in a massive circle and end up with the damn things coming back in again. I sincerely hope not, but it's a possibility and we need to keep an eye on it. But for the time being, we are at the status quo ante. We are on the current label formatting rules for CLP, the same as we have in GB. Do not use the new ones with the the minimum font size and the 120% font size spacing between labels, etc. Obviously, we're going to keep a really close eye on this because it matters to so many people. But yes, so it's kind of good news, but it's not as good news as we thought it was going to be at first. Right, so what have we got for you for our reasons to be cheerful? Well, it's another Mitchell and Webb, and it's Confused Teacher, which I rather enjoyed. I'm just going to pop it below this video now as well. So that's just about it for me for today. We obviously have a whole load of other information in this week's Chemicals Coffee Time, including a discussion on food imitation regulations. Hat tip to Freesia Day for setting me off on that particular rabbit hole. And yeah, don't forget the recipe. That's specifically for my dear former colleague Alison Potts, who was complaining at the self-help group meeting earlier this week that I just shove in, sort of pheasant or grouse or venison or something like that, as if people can get them. So yeah, it's a pheasant recipe. That one's for you, Alan. Okay. So that's a link to the newsletter website, just in case you would like to sign up. So that's it for me for today. I hope you have a great day, whatever you're doing. I hope that Cloudflare doesn't affect us anymore. And I look forward to chatting to you again next week, if we're spared. Take care of yourselves. Bye.